This is the Almost Timely newsletter for the week of January 8th, 2023. What's on my mind this week? The importance of recipes. A lot of folks like to crap on best practices. Quotes like, best practices copy yesterday, and best practices are dead ends, and my favorite, best practices usually aren't. And I admit, I was one of those people earlier in my career too, but let's think about this for a moment. What is a best practice? It's a methodology. It's a process. It's a practice that has been proven to work for generating a desired outcome. Strip away all the jargon and the lingo and the expensive consulting talk for a moment, and what does a best practice really resemble? It's a recipe, isn't it? A best practice is a proven way to get an outcome. A recipe is a proven way to get an outcome too. Is it innovative? No. Is it new? No. Is it revolutionary? Probably not. Will a recipe get food on the table? Yes. Yes, it will. Have you ever stood around in your kitchen wondering what to make for dinner? You just sort of stare. Maybe something will leap out, but you usually end up, making mac and cheese or toast or pasta because you literally can't think of anything else. If you're in a relationship with someone, you've probably had that famous endless conversation. What do you want for dinner? I don't know. What do you want? Right? You've had that at least once, right? A recipe solves that quandary. You pull out your recipe for baked tilapia or homemade burgers or quiche, and suddenly instead of standing around paralyzed by inaction, you're cooking, right? And if you follow the recipe, you generally get the outcome. Have you ever given a recipe to a friend? Right? Maybe you put up a photo of a dish that you made on Instagram or Snapchat or TikTok, and you've had friends say, I want that, right? How did you make that? It looks so good. And they ask you for the recipe. Right? Do you just sort of mutter at them, glittering generalities about the food, or you just hand them a recipe of the ingredients and directions? Chances are, if you're actually friends with them, you do the latter. That's the power of a recipe, the ability to convey knowledge to someone else in a compact form that helps them succeed. And that's the power of a best practice, right? Properly written out like a recipe, it lets you communicate all the necessary steps you need to succeed at something. So why do we have such hatred for best practices? Well, it's true that a commonly known recipe doesn't offer any kind of competitive advantage, right? If everybody's clear on how to make basic spaghetti and meatballs, then your Italian restaurant probably isn't going to succeed on innovative fare if your feature dishes everyday spaghetti and meatballs, right? But I suspect more that people who spend a lot of time criticizing best practices are A, either trying to sell you something, or B, are deeply insecure and trying to protect their own recipes from becoming commonplace. Right? They don't want it to be known that their recipes really aren't all that special. Or worse, maybe they don't know how to cook. Right? Maybe behind that social media reputation online or what have you, they really aren't very good at their jobs. I will freely admit, early in my career, when I was criticizing best practices, there was a whole bunch of things I didn't know, I wasn't very good at, and it was a cover because I was insecure. Right? Now, being much older and seeing the value of processes and standard operating procedures and best practices, look at it and go, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right? And that whole insecurity thing, it's a silly point of view because from an insecurity perspective, recipes evolve, recipes vary. Maybe you have a gluten intolerance, but you still love the taste of a certain pasta sauce. So you change the recipe to a gluten-free pasta. You still get the outcome, but in a different way. And now, the moment you start customizing recipes, they become yours, right? Maybe you had a winning Twitter strategy, but in the recent management change, all your influencers left for Mastodon. Can you adapt your recipe to follow? Probably. That's what separates the competent from the excellent, from the experienced. First, you learn the recipe and you practice it faithfully, right? You don't make variations, you just follow the recipe. Then you adapt the recipe to your circumstances. And at the peak of your expertise, Sometimes you can throw the recipe away entirely because you know it by heart, right? Gordon Ramsay doesn't have to look up a recipe for scrambled eggs. He's done it so many times, he just knows it. But there's still a recipe there, right? The same is true for best practices. In the beginning of your journey, you learn the practices and you practice them faithfully. You don't vary because you don't know enough to know what variations make sense and what don't. Then, as you gain experience and proficiency, you make those changes to your practices as needed. Maybe you have a social media strategy, right, that worked well on Instagram, and you're looking at TikTok. Now, is TikTok the same as Instagram? No. But are there human beings on the other side of the device, looking to be entertained or educated or engaged? Yes. Yes, there are. So you take what works from the recipes and you vary them. You make them work for the same humans on the other end of a different platform. But the outcome is roughly the same. Entertained, engaged, educated people. The most successful folks, right? Like at the end of your marketing career, after you've had a few decades in the office, the experts maybe don't need recipes at all, right? A new social network pops up and you just know, you're an expert. You know what makes people engage. So you figure out the specifics of how the new platform works, but you engage people where they are as they are with the same level of success. Those successful folks, to perpetuate their success, they write their recipes down. They have their own cookbooks, whether or not they're published. They have their compendiums of tools, of tactics, and techniques that they know inside and out. And that cookbook is a codex of awesome. Right? That way, they can train their successors so that their excellence can scale, so that they have a legacy. What's in your best practice cookbook? Right? Now, at this point in my career, mine's about 230 pages long. It's a compendium of ideas, frameworks, and practices that I keep privately, that I know work, stuff that I've used over and over again. What's in your cookbook? And if you don't have one, why not? What processes, what recipes do you know that generate results? I'll give you a real simple example. A recipe for growing a following on a social media platform. Number one, make sure your profile is optimized for topical relevance. Have keywords, images, decor, and stuff that immediately communicates what you're about. Number two, identify a hashtag or some other search method to find people interested in your key topic of relevance. Number three, follow those people. That's it. That's the recipe. Right? It's not super complicated. Just like scrambled eggs is, take eggs, crack them, scramble them, put them in a pan, cook them. What happens in this recipe without fail on every public social media platform I've ever used is that anywhere from 10 to 50% of the people who you follow will follow you back, at least for a little while, to see what you're about. Right? Now, there's a more advanced version of this recipe. Step 2 says instead of using the built inserts, use the coding platform of your choice. Extract the nodes and edges of the conversations about that topic and derive a network graph of the people you care about according to the centrality measure that matters most to your goals, and then create a weighted index of key measures to come up with the people to follow. But the recipe at its heart is still the same, right? Optimize your profile, find people to follow them. That's the recipe. It doesn't have to be complicated, but it does have to be written down so that you can make those variations, like using network graphing, and eventually transcend that. One last thing about best practices and recipes, a little secret between you and me. For those folks who are using systems and software like ChatGPT, Stable Diffusion, DALL-E 2, etc., you know those prompts that you give the machines? What do you think those are? The best prompts are recipes for what you want the machines to do. You don't just put in, write me some tweets, right? You put in a recipe. If you don't believe me, try this. I've got a recipe in the newsletter. You can just copy and paste, but just to see the results. But this is what I made for ChatGPT. It says, you are a world-class social media manager. You successfully create engaging content for platforms like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and many others. Your content specifically focuses on engaging audiences to comment on your content. Today, you'll be writing promotional content for the Almost Timely newsletter, an email newsletter published on Sundays by Christopher Penn. Here are the requirements. The URL, www.christopherspenn.com/newsletter, must appear in all posts. The social media handles to use is @CSPenn. Use one or more of the following hashtags, such as marketing, digital marketing, analytics, email marketing, or newsletter. The benefits of subscribing to the newsletter include a roundup of key marketing news every Sunday, original thoughts and ideas for innovative marketing practices, a roundup of new job positions, and resources to help marketers succeed. Write 5 Instagram post ideas. Format the ideas as follows. Line 1, suggested image. Line 2, suggested image caption. Line 3, suggested image type. Choose album or photo. I put this in, and it spit out exactly what I wanted because I gave it a great recipe, right? The more clear you are in your recipe, in your best practice, the better results you get, whether you're doing cooking, whether somebody else with the recipe is doing the cooking, or even machines doing the cooking. Recipes, and by that I mean best practices, are the building blocks for success. Dismiss them at your peril. All right, what else we got going on this week in the news? In case you missed it, had a whole bunch of new videos this week because we're in the new year. It's time to get back on the content creation train. The one I think is probably the most useful is how do you know whether a piece of content was made by a human or a machine? Got some suggestions for that. If you missed last week's newsletter, I've got a link to it. If you're trying to do some goal setting for the new year, I had the whole New Year's fire ceremony. If you tried it, if you followed the video last week and you tried it, reply, please, and let me know how it worked out for you. And keep in touch over the year and let me know, did that ceremony, did that practice help you focus in on your goals? I really want to know because I also want to be able to convey that back to my teachers to say like, hey, here's how people are experiencing this thing. We've also got some more stuff on ChatGPT, my 3 words for 2023, a bit of ranting on cheap lighting and shipping stuff to a war zone. In terms of new jobs this week, got a whole bunch. I have, I'm going to mess this up because I'm guessing Spanish. Administrador de procesamiento de datos at Fluzo, which I'm guessing is data processing admin. Data analyst at Migros Online, data engineer at Next After, digital project manager at 3 Whiskey, director of content at Kraft Sports, which is the New England Patriots team. Product analyst at Birdie, senior analyst at Publicis Group, senior data engineer at iTrinity, senior data scientist at Tala, VP of marketing at Yada, web analytics engineer at Brack, and web analytics engineer at Southwatts. If you missed it from last week's episode, I have a new totally free ebook. It's the 2022 Almost Timely Essays. The links are right in the newsletter. No forms to fill out, nothing, just giving it away. Grab it while you can. I'll probably share this for a couple more weeks, and then we'll just let that go away because that was 2022. In the news this week, social listening, the key to success on social media by Sprout Social. TikTok adding new TV show and movie tags. Twitter woes continue as the DPC investigates a data breach. Yeah. Awesome. Understanding measurement using the Peso model over at Spin Sucks. How to make your thought leadership stand out over at PR Daily. Is your SEO performance a dumpster fire? Is SEO dead? We have the 2023 marketing planning guide. That's going to be available for literally one more week, and then we're going to put that away because that forecast does expire with time. ChatGPT and other chatbots are code red for Google. Yeah, there's not to get off on too much of a tangent, but if the major search engines don't figure out why people love these things, they're in a lot of trouble. And if you haven't tried it yet, and it's available in your region, because I know it's not available in every region, hopefully it will be more so. It's pretty cool. Another one, what will ChatGPT mean for teaching? Education has to figure out what value it offers, right? If you're just having people recite things and vomit knowledge back to you, that's an outdated skill, right? We're teaching and education should be focusing is on helping people think better, right? When a machine can write an essay, is it really the essay that's the valuable part, or is it the knowledge processing, and how else can you do that? How else could you do it to prove the value of the learning process? Education's got some pretty big thinking to do. And then in the dealer's choice, we have the Genderbread Person, which I encourage you to check out, roulette probability stats, because I was curious this week, and a review of the Anker Soundcore headphones, which I just got for the office, that I'm shocked. I'm really legitimately surprised. The noise canceling on these is as good as the older generation of Bose headphones, so it's pretty impressive. Upcoming events, I'll be at Martechopia in London in March of this year. So if you're going to be in the London area, let me know. See if you can swing by the event. B2B Ignite in Chicago, and got about a handful of other events we're trying to work out the details for now. So hopefully be a year of fun road trips wearing cool masks. That's the news for this week. Thank you for tuning in. I hope that your new year thus far has been good. I hope that your new year continues to get better, no matter how it's been so far. And thank you. Thank you for being here, for paying attention. I know that you could have been doing something else and you chose to watch this instead. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button.